So we're going to start right now with the Ace of Swords. The Ace of Swords brings us into contact with the full potential of the creative mind. The creative mind that knows how to tell healing, universal stories that uplift and inspire. We have on this picture a white hand coming out of a cloud holding a double-edged sword, a sword that has blade on both sides. And at the top of the sword is a crown, a golden crown of highest level of conscious mental activity. The crown has draped on it the myrtle branch and the laurel. The myrtle branch is a symbol of peace. The myrtle branch is a symbol of peace. The laurel is a symbol of the champion. The champion mind is the highest level of consciousness, is the mind that uses the double-edged sword to cut through illusion and disillusionment and all of the tests and trials of the mind. The higher mind that knows how to come to peace. The hand is white. This is the mind that is a gift from the divine. The gift of virtue, potential, innocence. The mind that is innocent, what a concept. The mind is that aspect of consciousness that creates concepts, holds concepts, shares concepts, the conceptual mind. The Ace of Swords represents the clear mind, the true mind, the higher mind, the strong mind, the open mind. How do we attain this great potential? You'll notice that the mind is represented over the highest level of mountain peaks. Brown and blue mountain peaks in this particular deck, indicating the color blue is peace once again, and brown is practical color. It could be that that's a misprint and should be purple, but I do believe that we'll stick with the color as it is. In some of the other decks it's purple mountains with blue mountains, but we'll assume that it's not a misprint of the color purple, it actually is brown. And we'll take it as the mind that can be very practically grounded and at peace just by using the color correspondences. The symbol for air is an upward pointing triangle with a line at the top. You might remember that the triangle that points up is the symbol of fire, and fire is fueled and fed by air. So the horizon line is the symbol of fire being met by air. Air as a symbol for the clear mind, the open mind, the spacious mind, shows us how to expand our consciousness. Just like air expands and takes the shape of its container, so our mind can expand and take many different shapes. When the Ace of Swords shows up, it is time to ask yourself the question, how clear am I? What is my potential? My mental, creative potential? How am I using my thoughts, my ideas, my beliefs, my attitudes? Is there something I need to slice through? You'll notice that on either side of the blade we have the Yud, the Hebrew letter which stands for the hand of God. Yud or Yad is hand. we have 6 little yuds. So this is again the mind that is the healer. If you'll remember, we have in the number 6, in the major arcana, Raphael, the healer. So this reminds us to use the mind as healer instead of slayer. How am I using my thoughts, ideas, attitudes, and beliefs to heal myself and others by sharing the universal story? Yes?
How did you get number 6 from?
If you look at the card, you'll notice that there are 6 yuds. 1, 2, 3.
All those little yellow leaves?
Yes, those little yellow leaves are called yuds.
Oh, okay.
And they are golden in color, which is a symbol of the highest level of consciousness. And because there are 6 in the tarot, we are always using all of the elements, numbers from numerology, symbols from astrology, colors, mythology, legends, all of these blend. So the number 6 will take us to the major arcana 6, which reminds us of the angel Raphael and reminds us that the potential for the mind is to be guided by the hand of God, or the divine or the infinite, and bring healing to our thoughts. That's a way of putting those symbols together. There's one other element I want to add about the double-edged blade. One blade of the mind is the side which is the rational mind, the mind which is logical, that looks at all of the outer facts and figures and evaluates the pros and the cons of the external world. The other blade of the sword turns inward, and it's that fine-tuning of a subtler level of intelligence. Frequently it's associated with intuition, but this is intuition. It's the analytical mind, it's the rational mind. This is the synthesizing mind that also draws in from the resource of intuition. And you look at the inner facts and figures. And by combining outer and inner analysis and synthesis, you are able to then bring together inner and outer worlds in a way that brings healing and unity, that allows you to attain that highest level of consciousness, to be at peace with yourself and to be a champion, the higher mind instead of what we call the lower mind. So there are 3 air signs in astrology, and the 3 air signs are all expressed in the minor arcana. The 3 air signs are Libra, which is about coming to harmony and balance, the peaceful mind. Next is Aquarius, which is that universal mind, that open mind. And then the third is Gemini, the twins, how to create a best friend out of your mind instead of an enemy. So now we're going to begin. The first 3 cards, 2, 3, and 4, all are about Libra, and when we're in balance and out of balance. That first level that we connect with is the experience of the 2 of Swords. It is associated with the moon in Libra. We have a woman sitting on a stone bench wearing gray, the color of wisdom. She is blindfolded, reminding us to turn our attention inward instead of only looking outward. We take the rational mind and we put it to rest, and we turn our attention inward. This is echoed again by the image and symbol of the moon in the card over the lake waters, the calm, still waters. How do we calm and still the mind? We do that through the art of self-reflection. The moon is a symbol of the mind that changes. And through being able to reflect on change. Just like the moon goes through cycles and changes, we are able to gain a new perspective and begin to tell ourselves healing stories about what it is that we need to bring ourselves back to balance. We are able to gain perspective on the rocks and islands that show up in the waters of the subconscious mind. So when this card shows up, it is a call to reflect upon yourself, to ask, am I at peace? Can I use that capacity of the inner awareness that observes what is as it is to bring myself to peace? Because this card is associated with Libra, in addition to the number 2, which says this may be very important for the last 2 days, 2 weeks, or 2 months, or for the upcoming 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, it also says that there may be a state of peace or something that needs to be rebalanced or come into a greater sense of perspective or harmony through self-reflection between now and the time of Libra. Libra is the time frame that puts us into the end of September and through October. Using the astrological symbol, the zodiacal sign of the card, is another way of predicting timing, using the synchronicity of the cards if it shows up. So take a moment now to share with your neighbor your experience of peace or lack of peace. What is it that can help you reconnect with self-reflection? How do you bring your mind to peace? This card also is a reminder, by the way, to sit in silence, to sit in meditation, to watch your dreams, to record your dreams that come to you at night, and to spend more time listening instead of speaking. Remember the 4 steps to wisdom. Start with silence, then listen. And when you receive a message, practice, and then study the results. So this is suggesting the first 2. Go into the silence and listen. There are a couple other things that I forgot to mention that are really important in this card. I forgot to tag it to the major arcana, as well as how do we bring the mind at peace? You'll notice not only is she blindfolded, but she has her arms crossed over her heart. The swords come from the heart. When our thoughts come from our heart, our mind is at peace. The heart is able to hold paradox, can hold opposites, like tears of joy. The heart is able to do that, to hold opposites without polarizing. We learn the resources of the number 2 as it's described in the High Priestess, who knows how to sit with paradox by being at balance between inner and outer world. We draw from the wisdom of intuition and mystery without having to have the exact answer. We allow there to be space for mystery that allows us to come into balance, like the Justice card, between inner and outer world, which then, in the silence, we are able to hear the call of the angel Gabriel, card number 20. Once again, this card reminds you to go to your heart to seek peace, to allow the place of balance between inner and outer, and go into the silence that then allows you to hear the silent whispering voice of your own true self, your call in life. And when you walk in that way, it brings you peace. Number 3, we fall into the first trauma of the mind. It looks like it's emotional. The heart with 3 swords piercing it, rain clouds in the background pouring down. Yet those clouds are gray. There is a wisdom even in this card. I call this the betrayal card. This is the card where we feel rejected, abandoned, disconnected from our heart. Perhaps as we begin to walk from the place of peace and we open our eyes and begin to walk in the world, we lose that sense of balance. Does that happen to anybody ever? How do we respond to that feeling of feeling cut off or disconnected from our true source? Of course, human beings, we tend to project. So we project that feeling of disconnection onto the important people in our lives. And we come to the belief that the things that I care most about and the people I care most about, I can't possibly have it all. What I really wish for, dream of, and desire, I can't have it. Either because there's something wrong with me or there's something wrong with them. And we begin to have the seeds of the blaming mind and the mind that begins to go through the death. The stages of death, according to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, you'll recognize these in the Three of Swords. Denying the capacity to be at peace and in balance and harmony between inner and outer. Perhaps feeling angry, frustrated, resentful, abandoned, rejected. Moving into rationalization and explaining why. It's because of them or it's because of me. There's something wrong with someone here. And usually, whenever we're pointing outwards and saying it's them, we have three fingers pointing back, shaming us and ourselves, which of course is very depressing. Hence the cloud storms in the background. There is a mystery in betrayal. Self-betrayal, or when we feel rejected or abandoned by others outside of us. In order to resolve the mystery, we are being invited to reconnect with universal, unconditional love that accepts ourselves and others unconditionally, accepting both our greatest capacities as well as our limits and boundaries, the Empress. We are being invited to gain a new perspective, to turn our world upside down and to drop the burdens that we've been carrying. The Hanged Man, to let go of our hang-ups, our belief that life should be a particular way instead of the way it is. And then to access that creative potential of the world, to be able to recognize how to use the fixed energy of our mind, our emotions, our fire, creativity, symbolized by Leo the lion, and our habits, patterns, and routines. How do we use that energy in order to stabilize and support ourselves? Always we use the resources in order to free ourselves from the constraints. The last Libra card is the Four of Swords. This card is a card of meditation, the mind that is able to bring itself to truce after suffering the pain of rejection, self-rejection and abandonment. We do that by, as you notice as you look at this card, you move into a sanctuary, a sacred sanctuary. You return to your inner domain. We have here a figure, a golden figure, lying with his hands over his heart in a prayer pose. There is a sword underneath him and 3 swords hanging on the wall. We have here in the symbol in the background on the stained glass an image or picture of a child before a saint. We recognize the dependency of the mind and that spiritual source symbolized by the saint that is able to support the mind. In the Buddhist teaching, this is called original dependency, the origination, I think it's called, that the truth is we are all dependent. And instead of suffering which is what happens in the Three of Swords. We suffer because of our dependency. We look for someone or something to support us, and without fail, they're not there and we feel abandoned or rejected, or we don't support ourselves in some way, and then all kinds of conditions come. This card says, yes, of course you're dependent. It's okay. Turn inward to the source where all dependencies originate and let yourself be nourished. There are 4 swords that symbolize the 4 steps of the mind that is able to expand, Jupiter, and rebalance itself, Libra. This card is associated with Jupiter in Libra. The first sword is the observing mind that observes what is without value judgment, without explanation, without rationalization. Just observe what is. While you're observing, you will then notice that certain things have a positive and a negative valence. You will observe and notice your judgments, your thoughts, your ideas, your attitudes and beliefs. And you will notice that they look positive and negative. So the second sword is being able to detach, the mind that is able to detach from positive or negative. You witness and then you detach. Once you have detached from your attachment to the positive, your attachment to the negative, you are then able to pull the third sword, which is choice. Choose now. If you have a choice, what are you going to choose? The creative power of choice is then awakening the fourth sword. Now that you are eliminating the negative and assimilating the positive creative potential, you are able to take all of the resources of the energy of that positive potential and the commitment to eliminate the negative by then going forward with your clear intention to create what it is that you wish to bring forward. You reorient your thoughts through the power of affirmation, through creative storytelling, through creative, universal insights and understanding. You shift from what it is that you're doing that is personal to you, and you now understand it within a universal truth. Moving from the personal mind to the universal mind through observation of the witness that sees the positive and negative and detaches, that then chooses the positive resources that allow you to create the universal truth that inspires you to go forward. We use the resource of a discipline of the emperor that knows how to take a stand by going in new directions. Emperor is associated with Aries. We are willing to take risk, to go in the direction of that which supports the creative potential of the mind. We are willing, with the Death card, to get down to the bare bones of what really matters and what is really essential, and we're willing to let go of everything that is not necessary. Then we are able to come forward into the next opportunity of mind. We now look at how do we move by taking this mental energy and expanding into Aquarius. How do we expand the mind further? The next 3 cards are associated with Aquarius. The number 5 is the experience of Venus in Aquarius. So when we expand our mind, but we disconnect from the Venus, from our love, our passion, our beauty, our creativity, our sense of connection and relationship to ourselves and others, we fall into another layer of pattern. You'll notice looking at the 5. We have a guy standing wearing a green jerkin. He's very creative, wearing red. He's caught in his passions. He's got his little brown boots on, so he's standing on the ground, trying to move about in the world. And here he is holding 3 swords. Immediately we notice we've gone back to the 3 of Swords. The 2 of Swords, peace of mind, are strewn on the ground. He's lost that sense of balance and now is expanding as he comes forward again with this re-injury to the self. This is the place of self-betrayal, not just the place of the experience of betrayal when we first move out into the world, but how do we betray ourselves now? I'm the one holding the swords now. Okay. In the 3, it is that initial separation from spiritual connection. In the 5, I'm holding the swords. I have become identified with certain ideas, attitudes, and beliefs that may or may not serve me. One of the biggest impediments to healing, and I always blend in the work of current thinkers that are reflections of some of the ancient teachings. There's a guy from Montreal named Jean-Charles Crombie. He's done 30 years of research on healing at Notre Dame Hospital. And he says that there are 3 primary impediments to healing. One is the experience of loneliness. The other is the experience of self-doubt, where we worry about the past or the future. And the third is that feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. We get to see all of those here because those are mental attitudes, not just emotions. And so here, you'll notice that this guy is standing there with a smile on his face, thinking that he's gotten away with something. There's another person here who's trying to walk away from the whole thing. And then the third person here who's standing with his head in his arms, his head in his hands. We have storm clouds in the background, and we have the water, which shows again that subconscious mind, with land in the background, kind of gray land. We have entered into the shadow of doubting ourselves. We don't know if we should pick things up. We don't know if we should walk away. We are questioning whether what we're doing is right or wrong. The person with his head in his hands. We find all number of self-defeating ideas, attitudes, and beliefs showing up at the 5. These are tests for the soul. These are the tests of the Hierophant that remind us, in order to expand our mind, Aquarius, we need to build right relationship, Venus, first to our deeper spiritual wisdom. We access the resource of the Hierophant, who reminds us to discover the wisdom of any circumstance or situation. What am I learning here? How can I grow from this? The questions we ask ourselves guide our quest. If we say, God, how could I be so stupid, so blind? How did I do that? You'll get answers to those questions. Not a good question. You'll start looking at your whole history and how you're so stupid, and it's because of this and that, and all of the stories, the wounding stories, the conditions from your family, the conditions of everything that's going on around you, past life conditions. Doesn't matter. The original condition of feeling cut off and separated from Source. Doesn't matter what the condition is. Ask a better question. How can I grow? How can I learn from this? What's the deeper teaching? How can I take this to the universal insight and understanding? How can I find the keys of wisdom? Use and access the gift of the Hierophant, which will teach you how to come into balance between the roses of desire and passion and the lilies of virtue and innocence. Then you can come into that place of temperance. The Michael, the angel that is able to burn through the obstructions of the mind, who can help you keep one foot in the waters of the soul, the other foot here on the earth, and find that point that is beyond the paradox. Once again, being able to have all of your experiences take you to a place that's even broader, like tears of joy, which I've mentioned before, like thoughts of a koan which can't really be answered. To be able to ask questions that take you to an expanded perspective on yourself and your journey. That allows you then to move to the 6, which is the journey. We have here a man guiding a boat with a woman and a child. One side of the water is wavy, the other side of the water is calm. We notice that we have 2 swords on one side and 4 swords on the other side, reminding us to return to our self-reflection and to bring with us the resource of witness that observes positive and negative in a detached way that allows us then to make creative choices to eliminate the negative and assimilate the positive and create meaningful healing stories. This card, the 6, is associated with Mercury in Aquarius. Mercury is the symbol of communication. We learn to communicate in ways that are healing, that calm the mind, soothe the mind, by developing the gift of self-observation. We bring with us the resource of the man, which is our intellect, outer awareness, that looks at the rational, objective facts, and also the female, which is the subjective awareness, that looks at what it is that we are receiving in this moment. And with those 2 together, we create, symbol of the child, a direction that will support our journey. And the journey we are taking, because it's a 6, is a healing journey, symbolized by the Lover's card and Raphael, the healing angel. The stories we create are healing universal stories that allow us then to have a little more of humor in life, to be able to eliminate our false attachments, symbolized by the devil, and to connect with our creative passion and aliveness and joie de vivre. This is the journey of the soul that brings enlightened awareness to the mind. But of course, as we move forward, we discover, lo and behold, the 7, that we still somehow have taken on a few self-defeating thoughts and ideas. In number 7, we have the moon in Aquarius. And we notice that we have this fellow holding 5 swords by their sharp blades in his bare hands. This is not a smart way to hold swords. You will injure yourself if you try to hold swords by the blade. This card is associated with the experience of, I don't know if any of you have ever had this experience of like doing and undoing, self-sabotage. Anybody ever get caught in that on the mental plane? It's common. So we're going forward, and then we begin to undo what we've done. We begin to, again, second-guess ourselves and try to rationalize what it is that we're doing, and maybe we should do it this way or that way, or whatever it is that's happening. We, instead of creating a universal story, we're now creating a personal story. And we've got all of our explanations and all of our reasons. And frequently, you'll notice the 2 of Swords is left behind. We've left our peace of mind behind. We need to re-examine what are the ideas, attitudes, beliefs, thoughts that we are carrying with us that are perhaps part of our conditioning from the family or from the environment or from our history. Notice he's looking behind him. He's looking to the past. And how now do I begin to release those conditions, those negative messages that I may have received that I didn't even know I took on, and I'm still carrying them? That's the next level of the mind that needs to be liberated. This is associated with the moon in Aquarius. The moon is frequently associated with our home, our family, our sense of security, our ancestry. So now we look at those deep beliefs that were part of our upbringing or cultural or traditional or family conditions. And in order to resolve this, and you'll notice again that there's a lot of gold light in this card. So the potential for enlightenment is great. But it comes through examining those deeper core beliefs. And the way we then move forward, you'll notice he is moving forward. We need to access the power and creativity of the archetypes of the 7, the charioteer and the tower card. Like the charioteer, we need to access the creative power of our intellect, our intuition, our imagination, and our intention. So as we move forward, are you meeting, if this card shows up, ask yourself, am I meeting my intention? And if I'm not, what is my intellect telling me? What are the false ideas, attitudes, and beliefs that I need to release, symbolized by the tower card, where we dismantle those false ideas, attitudes, and beliefs so we can speak the truth? Let me use the power of my intuition and my imagination to create again that more universal healing story in order to move forward in the way that fulfills my soul. So these are the tests and challenges of the mind. How is it that we betray ourselves? How do we become more selective in order to move forward in our journey? And even as we move forward, maybe there's still something that I have to let go of here. In the 8, we have a woman blindfolded and bound, surrounded by 8 swords, 3 on one side and 5 on the other. What does that tell you automatically? There are deeper layers of this feeling of disconnected from a universal source of love. That's the 3. And the 5, which is this having taken on ideas, attitudes, and beliefs that are completely unconscious. And so how do we even release those? This is what's called owning the shadow. You'll notice we go from the golden light of the 7 in the background, our conscious mind, where we can do the easier work of becoming aware of our thoughts that we're conscious of, and we eliminate those. Then we have to do the harder work of becoming aware of our unconscious thoughts. That's a little harder. We have Jupiter in Gemini here. How do we expand the mind into the unconscious as well as conscious? Well, you do that by observing those ideas, attitudes, and beliefs that really get your goat. Which are the judgments that have you blind? Which are the ones that have the highest level of righteous resentment? Which are the ones that when you think about that person or that situation, it just gets you? That's the 8. You're bound up in it, and you don't even know why. But the beauty of this card is, as bound as she is, her legs are free. We have the ability to free ourselves from unconscious conditions and beliefs. Those restricting thoughts and ideas and attitudes that don't really allow us to be our own best friend. How do we become friends with our own mind? This is what the next 3 cards represent. And the 8 suggests that in order to do that, the first thing we need to do is, like the 8, we need to learn to tame the wild beast that sits in our unconscious mind. We do this by being kind and gentle to ourselves instead of condemning and ridiculing and shaming and self-wounding. That's the first test. And we reconnect with the card 17, which is our radiant gifts and the beauty of our true spirit once we have tamed the wild beast. We reconnect with the guiding star of our own higher self that infuses us with awareness of our relationship to the mystery of the universe, and that we are not alone, we are supported here, and there is a quality of energy that can move us beyond all of the restrictions and limitations. However, most of us move right on in from holding on to our righteous resentments, and we act out in some way, usually by saying something mean to someone. Jupiter expands and we just get really into it, and Gemini is communicator, right? And so then we move right on into the 9 of Swords. Mars and Gemini, we take that negative energy and we act on it, and we feel remorse and regret. And this is when we really connect with the human condition. Oh my God, we are all so vulnerable. Every single one of us. Whoever said, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me," that was like a positive affirmation that's not true. You know, the thing about affirmations is they need to be true to the subconscious mind as well as to the conscious mind, or else they don't work. You need to speak truth, not half-truths. Not a truth that only the conscious mind believes. You need to have a truth that the whole mind knows, yeah, this is true. What the whole mind can embrace when we start getting caught in this negative place is, wow, we're all so vulnerable. Every single one of us. And how do I then begin to cultivate compassion for myself and for others when I get caught in the unconscious patterns and unskillfully direct my energy in ways that wound others, which then ultimately, of course, also wounds me? So we do this by accessing the gifts and wisdom of the hermit, who reminds us that we need to illumine the inner world to understand the universal humanitarian element within the number 9. One of the things that I love about this card, we have a guy sitting up in bed with his head in his hands, full of remorse and regret, dreams disturbed, 9 swords cutting across, and if you look at his quilt, he's got these beautiful red roses of passion on yellow background, and then the blue patches, which would be representative of peace of mind, are full of all of the signs of the zodiac and all of the planets. This is again another way of saying that this is a universal issue. Every sign of the zodiac and every planetary aspect gets caught in giving too much energy, the yellow, too much energy to the red passions of the roses, and getting caught in that in a way that's out of balance. And that's part of the vulnerability of being human. After we have acted out everything, how do we then begin to get to the deepest layers of the subconscious? We do that by recognizing that we are in fact like the moon on an evolutionary journey. And whatever we just got caught in, good for you, you're waking up to where you are here. You thought you were already at the mountaintops. Guess what? You're the crayfish coming out of the depths. You're evolving, you're growing. We let go of our arrogance. We recognize that the path of enlightenment is infinite. And we are always dealing with our domesticated and wild aspects. And how do we walk the path of the infinite? between constructed reality, symbolized by the towers, and universal reality, symbolized by the night sky with the yuds, that creative, infinite intelligence that's guiding us. And, more often than not in the world of the mind, when we feel our regrets and we start beating ourselves up, we move right ahead and along into the Ten of Swords instead of going through and accessing all of our healing resources. If we are in the mind only, we forget sometimes how to access the healing resources. So it's not uncommon for somebody to go into being righteous and resentful, and instead of owning the shadow, acting out and feeling remorse and regret, and then beating yourself up until it just totally kills you. This is the Ten of Swords. But the death is a good death. You'll notice that in the background, this guy's lying flat on the ground, face in the mud, swords piercing his entire body. But behind him is a perfectly calm lake with mountains in the background and a sunrise. Death brings birth. Those old ideas, attitudes, and beliefs are killing you, and you finally get it. Yeah, I cannot do it the old way anymore. I really cannot continue to perpetuate that pattern of thinking. I am required now, Sun in Gemini, to create a new identity which allows me to befriend my shadow. How do I tell the universal story of my shadow when I'm acting like an absolute jerk? Oh, I'm acting like a jerk. Gee, there must be something here that I can grow from, that I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm evolving. How do I use the power of the magician, the number one, to use the appropriate tool to support my healing? Do I need emotional healing? Do I need to reconnect with my energy and spiritual healing? Do I need to physically do something in the world, the disc or pentacle? Do I need to pick up the sword and slice through those old ideas and create new thoughts, new ideas that are a representation of the deeper archetypal truth and mysteries? Remember, it can't just be a positive affirmation. You can say until the cows come home, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. But if there's a part of you that is still carrying the belief of being unlovable, it will negate the belief. Tell a healing story. It is a universal crisis in consciousness for all of humanity to discover the deeper truth of feeling loved and feeling unloved. This is true. And how can I embrace the wisdom of that? I access the Wheel of Fortune and recognize that we are all learning lessons of the soul. And so it is that I begin to recognize my true innocence, the Sun card, number 19. I am like that little child on the horse, which is so powerful. And sometimes that power just rides its own way, and I'm just kind of like on for the ride, innocent, and I'm learning as I go. That's a different story. Can you hear the difference in that story?